All right. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. We welcome you on the Regional Forum for Central Asia ASEAN Opportunities in Trade, Investment and Education. My name is Inkar and I'll be your host today. I welcome all of you from different parts of the world. This initiative is organized by the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy Central Asia and Caucasus Alumni Chapter and Middle East Institute. I will just give you a brief intro of how we came with the idea of organizing this event with Dr. Alexandra Arduino from Middle East Institute. We were having pizza and chatting over things that we could discuss and organize. And I think most of these ideas usually come on this kind of kitchen talks these days, since we are all mostly working from home and we don't get this chance to meet people much. So we thought of organizing this event, which will help to discover and learn more about actually ongoing existing opportunities and the upcoming ones and the possible ones that could be extended to these two regions. So I would like to start introducing the panel that we chose for this event. First, I would like to introduce Aika Bolat. She is LKYSPP Alumna and Program Manager at the Frankfurt School of Finance and Management in Germany. Prior to this, she worked in different development organizations such as World Bank, GIZ, European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, UNESCAP. In academia, Aika worked for world's best universities, including NUS and Bocconi, and now she's working at Frankfurt. At NUS, she designed and delivered numerous executive education programs for governments in South Asia and Central Asia. And most importantly, Aika led the strategic partnership project between NUS and Nazarbayev University to establish the first ever graduate school of public policy in Kazakhstan and Central Asia. So please help me to welcome Aika first. I would like to welcome our next speaker, Birjan Mutanov. Birjan is Deputy CEO of the AIFC FinTech Club and Chairman of the Board of Directors Venture Rocket Eurasia. He oversees the development of the FinTech ecosystem and implementation of the FinTech strategy under AIFC since 2016. Birjan built a technology transfer business and directed investments to Kazakhstan and Central Asia from Korea. He is alumni of the MPA program in SNU. In addition, he was in charge of investment and technological projects in Central Asia of the State Water Resources Corporation of Korea. He has experience in strategic consulting, company and deal structuring, and business development in IT and FinTech, and he'll discover more about these opportunities for us today. Please welcome Birjan. It's so strange. I would think that I'm trying to think that there are applause in my head. So now I would
Let me help you out there. Yes.
Thank you, Oljas. Now I would like to welcome Athena Fu. She is also LKYSPP Alumna and Senior Assistant Director at the Ministry of Trade and Industry in Singapore. She coordinates Emerging Markets Division, Latin America, Russia, and Central Asia. Athena manages, promotes, and coordinates Singapore's economic relations with countries in these regions. And prior to joining the ministry, she was with the Trade Division in Singapore Customs for 3 years, promoting and administering customs schemes that facilitate trade. Please help me to welcome Athena today. Thank you. And last but not the least, I would like to welcome Oljas Jiankulov, CEO at Paradigm Capital, Singapore-based boutique fund house and principal at Tesla Capital, a Singapore early stage impact venture capital. He's a fund manager and impact investor with over 10 years of experience in asset management, insurance, brokerage, investment strategy, financial modeling, anti-money laundering, company and industry research, and due diligence. Oljas is also president at the Kazakhstan Asia Pacific Trade and Investment Chamber. Please help me to welcome Oljas.
Thank you, Inkar. Very kind of you.
Thank you so much. And I'll be moderating this talk. I'm not sure if we have Mr. Yerlan arrived. Let me check. Okay. So now I would like to give few words to Dr. Alexandra Arduino, who was at the early stage of this forum's ideas and who helped us to develop the structure and to get this diverse panel. I would like to give him a word for introduction, and then we can start the panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for carrying all the weight in organizing this very important event. Why at the Middle East Institute at the University of Singapore, we are very interested to look at Central Asia. We started a while ago, and we do sincerely believe there is a possibility for an increase in economic, education, and cultural partnership that include Central Asia and especially Kazakhstan and Singapore and East Asia. So I'm looking forward to listen and to learn from all of you and to interact with our public. And I do believe now that Yerlan will jump in soon, but I give you back the floor, Inkar, and you can start. Thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Alex. So we'll start with speakers. The structure of this forum will be that each speaker will present about their experiences and insights on the opportunities, the existing ones, the upcoming ones, the ones that they worked on. They will share about their journeys. And after that, we'll have Q&A session for 25-30 minutes when the audience will be able to ask their questions. And yes, we'll start with Aika. The floor is all yours. You can start.
Sure, thank you, Inkar, first of all, for your kind introduction. So let me share I have a few slides to share. Give me a second. I hope it works. Okay, can everybody see my slides?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, great. So first of all, before I get started, I would like to thank our Central Asia and Caucasus alumni chapter of LKY School, as well as the Middle East Institute of NUS for organizing such an interesting and relevant regional forum. And today I would like to share with you a successful story or an example of a partnership between Southeast Asia and Central Asia, specifically between Singapore and Kazakhstan in education sector. So this could be probably an example that could be helpful for the rest of Central Asian countries or in the Middle East. In this particular strategic partnership highlights how knowledge and technology can be transferred in between the regions or countries. And I will also emphasize on the important factors that make such a partnership success and possible, so the other countries could also learn from. So as you know, since independence, Kazakhstani government came up with many ambitious policies and strategies, specifically to become one of the most advanced 30 economies in the world by 2050. And one of the strategies was, of course, to diversify the economy. As we know, we can no longer only rely on the development of natural resources like oil and gas. So therefore, it was very important to start diversifying the economy. And of course, we had to learn from other advanced countries like Singapore, Taiwan, Indonesia, or Malaysia. And our first president, Mr. Nursultan Nazarbayev, was a great admirer of Singapore's founding father, Mr. LKY. He often mentioned in his speeches that Kazakh policymakers need to learn from Singapore's experience. And he also mentioned or wrote in his memoir that Mr. LKY was his role model. So we have adopted many useful policies from Singapore, of course, tailoring them for Kazakhstan's needs. And one of the policies was to improve the standards of higher education in Kazakhstan. So the first example I want to tell you is of course, the international scholarship program called Bolashak, or Future in English, that our first president set up to support and send promising young Kazakhstani talents to study at leading universities internationally. And of course, the expectation is that they come back and contribute to the country's development. And secondly, in 2010, the president also wanted to set up a world-class university in the heart of Central Asia, which is today's Nazarbayev University. So to give you a little bit of also historical background here, the picture that you see here is Mr. LKY receiving a very prestigious award from Kazakhstan, Order of Friendship. And this is because Mr. LKY himself was actually the first ever leader who visited Kazakhstan right after our independence, unofficially. He went to Kazakhstan to offer his advice and support. And of course, since then, there were several state-level visits between the countries. And I think this very close friendship between the leaders of the two countries led to many successful cooperation, not just in education sector, but also in other sectors. Maybe my colleagues later on will address that as well. So going back to the second initiative that proved to be quite successful is the Nazarbayev University project. And the goal of setting up this Nazarbayev University was, while relying on the international standards of education, to prepare the next generation of innovators, scientists, educators, engineers, so they could also help to diversify the economy and contribute to the transformation of the region. But to implement this grand initiative, there were three important factors that I would like to share with you or highlight, which is, of course, first of all, very high level of political commitment and financial commitment were necessary from the government side, from the leadership side. Secondly, we needed expertise of leading international universities. There was no need to reinvent the wheel. So therefore, Nazarbayev University is partnering with the leading universities, mostly from the US. And the only Asian university that partners with Nazarbayev University is, of course, NUS. And finally, there was also necessity to attract both local and international experts, researchers, scientists to help to develop the university. And also something to mention, government also created a very special fund and a law to protect the university. So even if there is a financial crisis, the project would continue no matter what. So this was very, very important to make the partnership a success story. And currently, Nazarbayev University has 7 undergraduate and graduate schools partnering with leading universities, as I said earlier. And there are, I think, around 70 labs, other funds available to support innovation and science, and so on. And this partnership that we created between NUS and Nazarbayev University was specifically to help set up the Graduate School of Public Policy, as Inkar mentioned earlier. The goal of setting up this public policy school was, of course, to transfer knowledge and best practices through public policy education and improve governance not only in Kazakhstan, but also Central Asia, and prepare the next generation of competent policymakers and managers to transform the region. So I'm happy to say that the knowledge is still being transferred. LKY School has 10-year contract with the Nazarbayev University, long-term strategic partnership that we signed in 2012. And LKY School helps to design and develop all the master's degree, PhD programs, develop the research strategy. And our senior professors from LKY School also visit GSPP to train and prepare the junior local faculty members of GSPP as well. So the school is, as of now, fully functioning. So far, GSPP has produced more than 200 alumni. A small portion of the alumni or students come from other countries, not just neighboring countries, including China, India, Russia, Mongolia, and other countries of Central Asia. I want to show you this picture of MPP group of MPP students who every summer they visit Singapore in order to have exposure to the advanced socioeconomic development of Singapore. LKY School organizes a lot of interesting visits, meetings with local policymakers, and it's really a very interesting exposure for our Kazakh students. So in summary, I once again want to highlight that for such a partnership to be successful, what is really required is a strong political will, commitment from the leadership of the countries or from the government. And of course, there should be also financial commitment. And it's not necessary, again, to reinvent the wheel. We have many supportive partners in Singapore, in other countries in Southeast Asia, so we can always rely on their expertise and get their support. So this is what I wanted to share with you in briefly, and I'm happy to address if you have any questions or want to know more in detail about the partnership. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the discussion today. Yeah. So thank you, and I'm looking forward to hearing my colleagues after this. Thank you, Inkar.
Thank you so much, Aika, for introducing this cooperation. I think there are very important takeaways from this. First is that when the country is really having a very strong political and financial commitment, the entire setting up of the structure, it's very important not to have just a partnership which is entrusted for years, but it's also important to have a partnership which actually fits the demand for public policy trainership in the country. And the example of cooperation between LKY and NU, I think, could be expanded to other Central Asian and ASEAN countries with, for example, the start of that. From my knowledge, Aika, you can correct me if I'm wrong, some of the Bolashak stipends, they also cover scholarships in Malaysia, right? In Malaysian universities. So I think this would be a good start for countries to start cooperating with the higher educational institutions in other ASEAN countries. Thank you for explaining this model, Aika. Now I would like to give the word to Birjan, who will introduce about the fintech and AFC ecosystem. Thank you for joining us. Birjan, the floor is yours.
Dear colleagues, friends, thank you for having me. And can you see my shared screen?
Yes, can.
Great, thank you. Actually, today I want to briefly explain what is happening regarding the financial technologies, regarding the innovation, regarding the venture capital, what we are trying to build here within the region of Central Asia, regarding the countries of CIS, post-Soviet Union countries, and how we can communicate with the ASEAN countries, and especially with Singapore. And I'm responsible for the fintech development of the AFC. And let me briefly explain what is happening within the AFC in general. So we have the 5 core pillars at this moment, and we are trying to turn to the new model of the financial center. So here you can see the capital markets, asset management, private banking, and Islamic finance as one of the core pillars. And the fintech is a platformic and ecosystemic, let's say, approach that have to develop the financial landscape, financial industry of the Kazakhstan and the Central Asia countries. And like as the AFC itself, we are going to play a role of the financial hub for the whole region of the Central Asia, Caucasus region, economic union, which is the which have the very big potential, and we want to become a gateway between the Asia, between the East and between the West. So here, regarding the capital markets, I would say that we already became that gateway because we've combined the 2 big economies of the world, the USA and China. Especially for the Astana International Exchange, we've invited to be a part as a technology partner, the Nasdaq. So you all know about this key player in the world, and the JP Morgan also became a shareholder of the Astana International Exchange. And from the other hand, the Chinese organizations like Shanghai Stock Exchange and the Silk Road Foundation also became the part of these financial institutions. So that's the first case when the China and the US organizations are working together on developing the financial landscape of the like different region. So here, why the AFC? So we are very expat friendly, and so that's split it to our, so it's linked to our DNA. So Kazakh people are really like expat friendly from the very beginning of our like history. So here, what do we provide is a single window approach. So you're just writing, texting, or approaching to our colleagues from the expat center, and you'll get any kind of like governmental services. What do we provide, and what our country provide? And for your business, if it is regulated within the AFC, so you will get zero corporate tax, and for the expats, you will get the zero personal tax, income tax. So I want to little bit go deeper regarding the legal environment and what we are building as a jurisdiction. So what we say as the AFC, the unique place which played the key role that in the territory of the post-Soviet Union countries, every country uses the principles of the Roman-German approach. And the Hong Kong, for example, or Singapore, or the other like Asian tigers are using the, so they are using the approach of the English common law system. So we've built the English common law system in the center of the like Romano-Germanic approach, and so we are trying to make a mindset shift, and so we are changing the minds, we are changing the approach, we are changing the business model, and everything is going English, like, and that should be very understandable, very clear, very transparent, and approachable to every expat and every investor, project holder, etc., etc. So, and we are also trying to make our regulation more flexible. So it's like we can go deeper into history, like why like Soviet Union failed on the Cold War, right? Because of that. So one of the like factors is actually the like the judicial system. The second one is the regulatory frameworks, because we like, for example, as a Kazakhstan, for changing some stuff to make an innovation, so we need to change the laws. And when you are like ending up that procedure, maybe it's not unnecessary already, because like the time is fly and the time to market was gone. And for the English common law, so you have to provide all the benefits in terms of the regulatory framework that you can like every can benefit from this kind of like ecosystem. So this one is the AFC bodies and what's the general structure. So AFC had the AFC authority, which is mainly responsible for the strategy setting and responsible for the administrative tasks and the communication with the governmental institutions, including quasi-governmental institutions within the Kazakhstan. So I already talked about the Astana International Exchange. So they have a lot of, let's say, like bonds, obligations, and some other like papers which is listed over there. And they have listed the first Russian organization, which is also one of the biggest mining companies, called Polymetal, and that they listed in 2019, I guess, and that they're kind of like rising. So regarding the legal framework, regarding the jurisdiction, what we are creating, and regarding the flexible approach to developing the business models is so here responsible for that part is responsible AFSA, Astana Financial Services Authority, and here AFSA closely works with the Monetary Authority of Singapore, and so we are building that bridge to exchange related to knowledge, related to the best practices, related to the sandbox model. Sandbox, which is the special regime where you can go live without any kind of strict restrictions or requirements to go to, for example, to go to the market. So you can go to the web, any website, and search the internet regarding the regulatory sandbox, and you'll understand more about that type of approach. So here also our Astana Financial Services Authority working with the intellectual property of Singapore under the Ministry of Justice of Singapore in terms of developing the intellectual property industry within the Kazakhstan, and to get that, let's say, gate to the whole world ecosystem of the intellectual property, because that is one of the parts of developing the new approaches and raising the innovation within the country. Because if you have any kind of documentation that justify that the idea is yours, then it means investor will feel him safe. So that's why here, and we've invited to our ecosystem English judges. So actually they were working for the English judicial system, and so we have now 11 of them. So they are building our court system, which is fully integrated to the Kazakhstani judicial system, and we have International Arbitration Center where already more than 400 cases were so 400 issues were solved within the International Arbitration Center. And we have other organizations, bodies. So the EFC, which is responsible for the developing of green finance, ecological stuff, and so regarding Expat Center, I already told. Bureau for Continuing Professional Development, BCPD, is responsible for the talent development, for the human capital, because that's foundation of developing of everything. So we are focusing on that very deeply, and fintech. So we are developing the general innovation regarding the finance, etc., etc. So more deeper, if we go, the fintech hub is so we call it as a center of competence. So we need to know what we are developing, and the fintech is developing within the AFC in two trajectories. The first one is the business development, what we do actually, and the second part is the innovation. It's a regulation, I'm sorry, and the sandbox approach where you can test bed your business approach, your technologies, your business model, etc., etc. Including you can test our regulation, and you can test the market, and so you can go live, for example, in 1 month or 2 months, much better. So here, I think I'm going to be finalizing my presentation. So one of the things what we do right now, and what is the hot topic, is the venture capital. So here we have a lot of business angels, private investors who are looking for the Central Asian markets, and one of the biggest, let's say, funds, financial institutions came from Singapore is Quest Ventures, and they are together with the Kaztech Ventures, which is also a state organization responsible for developing the VC industry in Kazakhstan. So they together conducted Kazakhstan Digital Accelerator. So they finalized the second batch, and for the first batch and second batch, they totally provided 1 million USD, I guess, investments to the startups, and all of them came to the AFC to structure their companies the first and to structure the deals, because for the first time on the territory of the post-Soviet Union countries were implemented the convertible notes mechanism. When the company, when the startup attracts the money, not only as a loan, but they can convert it to the equity. For example, investor can turn to the equity and like reinvest more, etc., etc. So that's a regime which is more understandable and like more clear for everybody, which cannot be done within the Kazakhstani jurisdiction. So that's a differentiation. And what do we provide to the like external investors? So this is a like short story what I can say about the AFC FinTech.
Right, thank you so much, Birjan. I think AFC is a great institution that plays a pivotal role in positioning Kazakhstan and Central Asia as a center for business and finance. Thank you so much for this introduction. I would like to give the floor to Athena, but before that, I would just like to mention that we now have our keynote speaker, Counsellor of the Embassy of Kazakhstan in Singapore, Mr. Yerlan Kubashev, who joined us. He will be delivering his keynote speech after the speakers are done with their presentations, so before the Q&A session. Now I would like to proceed to our speakers. Athena, please, the floor is all yours.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm very grateful to be given the opportunity to speak today. As introduced by Inkar, my name is Athena, and I am a Senior Assistant Director with the Emerging Markets Division in the Ministry of Trade and Industry. My primary role within the division is to lead my team on Singapore's economic engagement of the Central Asian region. Before I begin my sharing, I would just like to very quickly caveat that I will be speaking in my personal capacity today and not on behalf of MTI. And also, I do not have any slides. I realize the other two speakers have prepared very beautiful slides. Today would just be a sharing of my views of my time in Kazakhstan and my work at MTI. So as the only non-Central Asian speaker on this panel, I would like to first start by sharing how my interest in this region began. Before I joined MTI, I was pursuing my master's degree at the Kuan School of Public Policy. So for those who are not familiar with the school, LKYSPP has a partnership with the Graduate School of Public Policy at the Nazarbayev University in Kazakhstan. So part of this partnership included an exchange program, which I decided to apply for because I thought it would be a very fun and enriching experience, and it was also a very perfect opportunity to widen my horizons, having never been to Kazakhstan or even known very much about it. I also thought it would be very interesting to be able to tell people about being in Kazakhstan, because very few Singaporeans have ever been there or even know very much about it. Incidentally, I was also the first Singaporean student to participate in this exchange. And my exchange experience has been nothing but a very rewarding one. I learned a lot about the country and the region. I also picked up Russian, and I have been learning it ever since. But more importantly, my time in Kazakhstan has left such a deep impression in me that when I returned to Singapore and I was looking for a job, I decided that I wanted to stay in touch with this region in some way, preferably within the civil service, because I wanted to do policy work as well. And that led me towards my current role. So why is in Central Asia important to Singapore, and how do we engage the region at MTI? Economic diversification has always been a very important mission at MTI, simply because we have benefited from being an open economy. And that thus informs the need for us to expand our economic space, especially beyond the immediate region. So at the bilateral level, countries like Kazakhstan offer our companies a springboard into the wider Central Asian region, while other countries like Uzbekistan, in addition to its very large market size, offers a frontier economic space where our companies can enjoy early mover advantage. At the regional level, Central Asia's strategic location in the Belt and Road, as well as its membership and links to the Eurasian Economic Union, makes Central Asia a region of growing economic importance to us. Correspondingly, we engage Central Asia at both the bilateral and the regional level. At the bilateral level, this would mean assessing and recommending the different ways in which Singapore should engage the region so that we can develop bilateral trade relations in a way that is mutually beneficial and, more importantly, sustainable. This would, of course, require an appreciation of the different economic profiles of each Central Asian country vis-a-vis our own economic interests so that we can identify and propose meaningful initiatives. Pre-COVID, we would also from time to time conduct study visits to some of these countries to enrich our understanding of the economic realities on the ground. Outcomes of our bilateral economic engagements can range from executing official visits so that we can maintain ties at the political level to establishing memorandums of understanding so that we can collaborate on very specific sectors or any projects of mutual interest, to simply just welcoming more Central Asian products and companies to Singapore and vice versa. At the regional level, our engagement has primarily been with the Eurasian Economic Union, whose members include Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Russia. We have been negotiating a free trade agreement with the bloc, and we have signed 3 agreements under the FTA in October 2019. These agreements include the bilateral services and investment agreement with Armenia, as well as the non-services and investment agreement with the Eurasian Economic Commission and its member states. So the bilateral services and investment agreements with the remaining 4 members are still ongoing as we speak. When completed and enforced, we hope that, and we expect the FTA to lower business costs for importers in the EAEU through lower tariffs and lifting of barriers, as well as created greater confidence for more Singapore companies who are looking to enter the region. Specific to the EAEU, key benefits will include things like cooperation and institutional linkages on areas such as intellectual property, customs, and e-commerce, as well as deepening trade linkages between Central Asia and ASEAN and APEC. I should also add that a lot of our work involves working very closely with a variety of stakeholders, such as agencies like Enterprise Singapore and Singapore Corporation Enterprise, to the Central Asian embassies in Singapore. We work with them to raise awareness of the various opportunities in Central Asia and promote relations at every level, from the government to the business and even at the people-to-people level. And for instance, in the past year, we have been working very closely with the Uzbekistan embassy in Singapore to promote bilateral food trade. We worked with them to connect our importers with food exporters in Uzbekistan, and we managed to import a batch of dried apricots from Uzbekistan last October. We hope to be able to do more of that with Uzbekistan and the wider region in time to come. My team and I have been very lucky to have been introduced to Central Asia cuisine and culture in our official visits. In fact, last February, we just went out to Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, and we actually paid a visit to AIFC. So it was really very nice to go there and see the entire ecosystem and the various startups that have decided to make the AIFC their home, and to see a very vibrant fintech ecosystem at play. We've also been very privileged to meet many like-minded colleagues and friends in the course of our work and travels, and we hope post-COVID we will get to resume that as much as we can. Now, having had the privilege to learn about Central Asia, both from an academic point and professionally, there are many opportunities, as the other speakers have mentioned, but I would just like to highlight that in addition to these 2 opportunities, there are 2 broad challenges, I would say, to greater economic cooperation between Central Asia and Singapore. So first, while there is potential for cooperation across a wide range of sectors, from education, infrastructure, urban planning to food trade, which is what we are doing now, I think there needs to be much greater awareness at the people-to-people level for more opportunities and potential to manifest. I say this because Singaporeans like myself who know about the region are not many. And I think that if we can continue to raise awareness on both sides, be it through student exchanges like what I have done, or through virtual exhibitions, seminars, or visits, so on and so forth, I imagine people on both sides will be able to discover more opportunities for collaboration, or just simply be convinced enough to spread the word. And I think that multiplier effect could really be very beneficial to more opportunities and for cooperation to come. And when the pandemic is over, I hope that we get more opportunities to travel freely again, because I do recognize the importance of bilateral tourism and its role as a catalyst for more trade. The second bigger challenge to greater economic cooperation would be the lack of connectivity rather than the geographical distance. There is often the misconception that low trade flows are because of geographical distance on both sides. But I think if we follow that logic, then our bilateral trade with countries like the US should technically be lower than our bilateral trade with countries in Central Asia. But we know that isn't the case now. So I think in addition to stronger people-to-people ties, greater connectivity would be very key and beneficial to increasing cooperation and relations. In the context of Central Asia, I would say that greater connectivity could be on two fronts. One is the physical front. So for example, more direct air connectivity and flights, so to facilitate greater movement of people and goods. And on the digital front would be greater services and e-commerce trade, and that will facilitate greater economic cooperation in the long run. So in the work that my team and I do, we will always explore ways to deepen our ties with Central Asia. And if we can also similarly deepen the people-to-people ties and connectivity, I believe we'll be able to tap on more opportunities that both sides have to offer. And with that, I will end my sharing for now. Thank you for listening, and I'll be very happy to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Athena, for those insights. I would just like to add that we have also the Eurasian Economic Union has also actually signed FTA with Vietnam in 2015, and that resulted in an incredible increase in trade volumes. So that would be also expected from the FTA signed between Eurasian Economic Union and Singapore. And with that, I would like to introduce our last speaker, Ojas, please, who would tell us more about the investment opportunities in Singapore. So the floor is all yours. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Inkar. I'd like to start by thanking everyone who participated in jointly organizing this event. And as in Inkar in particular, who I understand did all the heavy lifting, as Alex said. I believe events like this are important. I myself had the privilege of helping organize events like this, in partnership with educational institutions and otherwise. For instance, the Alumni Singapore Business Forum in 2017, that was in tandem with various reputable Singapore-based educational initiatives, as well as the Kazakhstan Singapore Business Forum. I think the importance of that is to bridge, as Athena mentioned, a sort of a gap in understanding, to bring the cultures together. But rightfully, it is a start. It is only a start, and all depends on the follow-up, on practicalities of the relationship, on economic aspects. So that's what I would like to focus on in 10 minutes of my speech. As Athena, I would like to caveat this, that I'm speaking in my personal capacity. Anything I say is not an official position of the enterprises I represent, so I don't have a presentation. But just to start off, Inkar, correct me if I'm wrong, but for the purposes of this, he wanted me to focus on the journey of a Central Asian entrepreneur in Singapore and my experiences of how Kazakhstan and Singapore can partner up in the investment sphere, and how this collaboration can benefit each other. And if I'm correct, I'm going to start with myself. I am one of the few Central Asian entrepreneurs, Kazakhstani entrepreneurs based in Singapore. I have been in Singapore for many years. I feel like a local. I love it here. Why? What are the reasons? What are some of the reasons I focused on, or the reasons I decided to be based out of here while transacting financial and investment business that I do? Reasons are multiple. First and foremost, benefits of Singapore as a jurisdiction. They are obvious, and there are many, starting with the fact that this is a very stable, very transparent economic environment, very, very stable government, AAA rated, which is a big achievement these days. Secondly, a very technocratic, I would say, government that has created has developed infrastructure that makes it very easy to do business. Singapore, year on year, ranked either #1 or #2 for ease of doing business worldwide. because a lot of the services are easily accessible, procedures are very clear, everything is online. The government is predictable more or less in their policies. So for entrepreneurs like me coming to understand this, it makes it very easy to live with. Another great example and an achievement by the Singapore government is how the pandemic crisis was handled. There were ups and downs, but I think there was an exemplary performance by various branches of the government to bring this to the state where it is today. Taxes. Everybody loves taxes in Singapore. There are just enough not to put Singapore into or classify Singapore as an offshore jurisdiction, but they are not high enough to be honestly to think of relocating here for tax purposes. Definitely, especially compared to various European destinations. And that has yielded its results. Singapore is now actively competing with Hong Kong for certain positions as a financial hub, and in the foreseeable future, is competing and will compete with Switzerland and could potentially overtake Switzerland, in various positions as a financial hub. I think that's one of the it's a logical benefit of whatever Singapore has been doing. Another reason, when relocating here, or at least when I was relocating, it was very easy to go through the immigration procedures, obtaining various passes. Everything was transparent, easy to understand, very quick, especially compared to, again, various European destinations. Right now, the situation is a bit strained, of course, understandably so. Every government, more or less, is going through a certain nationalistic agenda, rightfully so. It's just in order to protect domestic employment markets. But outside of that, I think Singapore has done a great job in creating and fostering an infrastructure for relocation of entrepreneurs and skilled professionals. And also, obviously, as our speakers previously have mentioned, double tax treaties and free trade agreements, depending on the business you're in. For me, it's the double tax treaties with various emerging markets that are investment destinations. It's something that works really well. For example, Singapore and Kazakhstan have a double tax treaty that includes various provisions, including dividends, which makes structuring investment vehicles out of Singapore to do business in Kazakhstan very efficient. So there is a multitude of things one such as myself can look for while looking at Singapore. And last but not the least, it's a bit of a personal sharing, I guess. At the time when I was moving, Singapore, I'd say, is more receptive of foreigners, skilled professionals of Asian origin, as maybe some of the other hubs. At times, you don't feel like a third-rate citizen here, and Kazakhstani passport is not scorned upon. I'm being as practical as I can, I think, for the benefit. I don't like to mince words and waste time. So that's in a nutshell it. What has been done in terms of, say, how we as Paradigm have made use of this. We are a relatively young investment entity. However, we've grown pretty rapidly. We have 3 internal funds. We have an income fund called Paradigm Atlas, again, structured in Singapore, run under our regulated institution, makes it very, very easy to operate out here. Regulatory regime is transparent. We can be based out of here and attract capital of people who want to bank outside of, for example, Central Asia and be based here for their maybe some of their long-term capital. I think that works. Also, we have a strategy called Paradigm Emerging Markets that goes the other way. basically we have, and I think we're the first, it's the first of its kind. We have launched it this year. It will be the first Central Asia Financial Inclusion Fund strategy based out of Singapore. I didn't find any other competitors in this field. We have already made a token deal. Paradigm has bought, as a Singapore-based investment management entity, has bought a stake in one of the largest microfinance institutions in Kazakhstan. You're probably one of the first to hear this. We have recently concluded this deal, and that's not the end of it. We intend to become the household name for anyone interested in financial inclusion in Central Asia. Now I have talked a lot. I think I have 5 more minutes left. We've talked a lot about how, for example, Singapore is a great investment destination. Now let's talk how this can lead to increased partnership, and why Central Asia is an area Singapore should consider, or Singapore-based investors should consider in their future. For instance, financial inclusion, or investing into various financial enterprises or financial institutions that benefit micro, small, and medium enterprises, or financial institutions that promote women entrepreneurship, or banking for the underbanked. That has been an ongoing investment thematic in Southeast Asia, in ASEAN countries. And Singapore has been one of the hubs to be based upon and enter these markets. Indonesia, Malaysia, Myanmar, which unfortunately is undergoing a coup. Now, if you look at the multiples that Southeast Asia has enjoyed due to years of stability and development, they are 3 to 5 times higher, or maybe more, depending on the sector as compared to Central Asia. So Central Asia is the next investment frontier, where structurally changing economies and cultures could lead to extensive growth in multiples. Obviously, you have a financial hub, but you need to venture out of this financial hub. You need an investment destination. Singapore has great makings to be one of the financial hubs that could be a gateway to Central Asia. Yes, there is a AIFC. That's a regional phenomenon, which is great. However, I think in collaboration with Singapore, we could extensively increase that effect. Central Asia as an emerging market causes challenges. Well, obviously, so does Southeast Asia. I mean, yes, there has been relatively stable governments, but there are unfortunately episodes where countries fall back into previous stages of development, and that causes investment loss. That happens to any country. That can happen in any region. But we personally, as a group, believe that Central Asia is undergoing through that growth spurt, if I may, through the transformation that could lead to essentially that increase in multiples through which Southeast Asia has gone through. That's a unique opportunity investors based out of here could be focused at, and that is something that we want to offer here. If you want to participate in that, if you want to enable financial inclusion in Central Asia, we're here to help. Inkar, my apologies. How are we on time? When should I stop? I love my voice, so I'll keep talking.
Just a few minutes. 2 minutes.
Just a few minutes. All right. So while I have a few minutes, let me touch on something else that I wanted to touch on today. That is my personal venture investment vehicle called Tesla Capital. That is also based out of Singapore. That is something I think Bejan mentioned, Quest Ventures. So there was a historic deal recently. A Kazakhstani startup called Clockster raised $750,000 US in Series A, and the lead investor was Quest Ventures with I think $500,000, and the rest were other investors joining the round. So now that is a one of a kind. It is the first investment round that has been led by an institutional Singapore-based venture fund. It hasn't happened before, and I think that puts a new page in the relationship. I was a seed investor in that project, so I led the first institutional round for that company, together with a Kazakhstan-based venture fund called ABC-I2BF, which is another joint venture of Nazarbayev University and a US-based I2BF LLC, I think. So I led the round, they joined in, and then the next round was even more remarkable. And I think that's, again, I call this deal historic because I think that sets an example of what can be achieved for this young venture market. Again, that's something Singapore could look on with vast expertise as Southeast Asia's venture hub. Rightfully so, there are multiple opportunities for investment at cheap multiples and then scaling this technology to Southeast Asia using Singapore. I've invested into various, I have in my portfolio about 10 early stage projects. A lot of them have relocated to Singapore to put their holding companies. A lot of them have raised rounds, sometimes with my assistance, sometimes on their own. And there's obviously this great a joint venture between, or a partnership between Kazakh Ventures and Quest Ventures, called Kazakhstan Digital Accelerator, KDA. I mentor there quite a bit. I see what kind of projects go through there. I see what kind of young minds are benefiting from that. And I think that's great. I think that is exactly the type of collaboration that leads to sustainable, responsible, and beneficial investment returns for Singapore-based entities as well as Kazakhstan-based entities. There are various examples of cross-border business in Kazakhstan's and Singapore's past. Some of those examples are not very pleasant. Some of them are really good. So this is another opportunity to make this history better. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Oljas. I think these are very important insights from the industry. And on that note, I would like to give the floor to our keynote speaker, most awaited Yerlan Kubashev, the Counsellor of the Republic of Kazakhstan in Singapore. Mr. Yerlan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Inkar. Thank you to organizers of this event, and especially Mr. Alessandro, and to Middle East Institute, and to our speakers, participants, and to all the participants at this event. Sorry for being late and not being able to give the key speech at the beginning of the event, but I believe that at the end it will be even more interesting, because otherwise I would not be able to also add to my speech this key points that were noticed by the previous speakers when they were speaking. First of all, I would like to mention that this year we are celebrating in Kazakhstan 30 years of independence. And during these 30 years, Kazakhstan has reached a lot of in its development, but we are not stopping on that. And the plans for our development are pretty ambitious, and we are setting in our government and president put the task for the government to proceed on and to, so to say, make our government to more social oriented, to listen to the people, to the needs of the people, and most of all to implement all those experiences that we encountered during the fight against the COVID situation, and to learn more from the world experience about how, where the world is going, how it is developing, which best practices we can implement in Kazakhstan, so that we be able for post-COVID world. of course, within these reforms, the most focus is given to economy and investments. For example, our Ministry of Foreign Affairs now is responsible for the third years for the work to bring more investments to Kazakhstan. Under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Committee of Investment is become a substructure of our ministry, as well as Kazakh Invest. We are working together with those two arms, and the representative of Kazakh Invest is based here in Singapore, and he's covering not only Singapore and East Southeast Asia, but also the East Asia. So if today I see 40 participants participating in this webinar, I hope that many of these participants are not only participating not only from the academic point of view, but also have some interesting proposal for cooperation and economic cooperation. So I would invite to get in touch with the embassy and Kazakh Invest representative here, so that we could together look into it. And also we have a representative from AFC who just delivered the speech, and Oljas, also our partner from private business, represented Kazakh business here in Singapore and Southeast Asia. All of these arms are open, so please contact any of us. We are ready to discuss and to hear to you. Next, what I wanted to say that despite the COVID situation, for example, in 2020, according to the data of National Bank, investment from Singapore amounted to more than $150 million. It shows that actually post-COVID situation is not a big problem, not that big problem as it was calculated before COVID and during COVID. And as Ms. Athena from the MTI mentioned, the geographical distance is not much problem. The more problem is the connectivity. We are also encountering this problem when we are trying to establish a trade import-export operation. Unfortunately, the lack of direct connectivity is a big problem. Right now, there is, because of the Chinese policy, and I mean, Chinese government is paying more attention to and strengthen its policy on the trade issue. There were several COVID hotspots. That's why it brought, according to the newest information, it brought to the some kind of temporary halt on the trade between Kazakhstan and China. It also bad influence in our efforts to start our trade operation with Singapore and Southeast Asia. But we are looking, we are very positive on that. We have right now, I contacted a lot of companies by myself in Kazakhstan and Singapore. There is a big interest. The only problem is the logistical issues. If any one of you participating here has any suggestion, we are open again for discussion and for proposals. Please contact us. We will bring into the discussion Kaz Trade and Kaz Industry, two arms of Ministry of Industry and Infrastructural Development that are authorized to assist with trade issues in Kazakhstan. From Singaporean side, we are in close contact with SBF, Singapore Business Federation, and Enterprise Singapore. There are also other federations like trade chambers and so on. All of them have an interest. The thing is that for now, our biggest issue is connectivity, and we are working on it. And there are positive signs that we could implement it after COVID situation improves. Then I would also say that our work in Singapore, our embassy in Singapore, not only working on just some projects and trade, but we already have implemented last year several projects. One of it already was mentioned, that is cooperation with Quest Venture and its participation in Kazakhstan Development Accelerator. Several startups are working with Quest Ventures, and besides that, there is a, I believe that Bigjan Mutanov should know more about it, but we have the information that some companies from Astana Hub, which is located at the Astana International Financial Center, are planning to visit Singapore very soon to look into more cooperation on these startups and technological and financial projects. Besides that, last year we have implemented Singaporean Invest in Kazakhstan have implemented such projects as cement plant in Almaty region, then like oil service production in Mangistau region, and in North Kazakhstan region there were some feeding plants for chickens and birds. Next year and current year and next year we have more than 8 projects, joint projects under consideration, and we hope that most of these projects will be launched this year and will be implemented until 2025. That shows that COVID situation influencing, of course, but not that much. Besides that, the new opportunities that the distant cooperation and new technology has led us to focus more on is the cooperation between the educational centers and think tanks. First of all, we are considering several projects with the Singaporean educational centers and universities to open their branches in Kazakhstan next 5 years. But moreover, Kazakhstan and Singaporean think tanks right now looking for cooperation and starting cooperation in 5 different areas. It is publishing of articles, then participating in each other's events, exchange of students and teachers, arranging joint events and arranging joint studies. And to finish with my presentation, I would like to inform you that last year we were looking to have the visit of our president to Singapore. Unfortunately, due to COVID situation, it was not done, was not realized. Nevertheless, this year in Singapore, as you well know, we have Singapore will host a World Economic Forum in August. We are looking for a high-level delegation to come to Singapore to have meetings with leaders of foreign countries, including with the leadership of Singapore. And next couple of years, if the situation will improve, we are looking for a new start of cooperation with Singapore, especially in economic fields, and we look at this cooperation between Kazakhstan and Singapore as a new bridge between Central Asia and Southeast Asia. So I would like to invite all of you to think about any projects that you could propose to us that would be interesting. You think it is interesting and mutually beneficial. We are ready. I'm sitting in the at the ballroom, but we are planning to open when the situation improves. We are planning to have the virtual like expo of Kazakhstan products in our embassy, and we'll be ready to assist with your ideas and projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Yerlan, for your kind note. Thank you so much. I think we all learned a lot from that speech. And now I would like us to proceed to the Q&A part. I think it's very exciting to have the direct interaction with the speakers. I encourage the person who's asking the question to turn on their camera and make the webinar more livable. So I would like to give the floor to Jenny, the LKYSPP MPA alumni. She's working currently in Kyrgyzstan at the UNDP. She has a question for Athena, I think. Jenny, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you so much, colleagues. I'm really very glad to see there's another wonderful event of our LKYSPP Central Asia and Caucasus Alumni Charter. So this time we are in a partnership with Middle East Institute. So my name is Jenny. Together with Dinara, Inkar, now we are serving this alumni charter. So glad to see all of you again. As already mentioned, I'm from Kyrgyzstan. I'm a neighbor of Kazakhstan. So I understand like today's session is more on between Singapore and Kazakhstan, right? So I do hope more dialogues can be follow up with more states from our region can be also engaged in such a communication. Okay, talking about doing business in Singapore. We mean not just in Singapore, because Singapore is a red spot, as Singaporeans used to say by themselves. So based on my understanding and communication with many Singaporean businesses, this doing business in Singapore, it means doing business in ASEAN or even to the global market. So that's why it's totally understandable for Central Asian businessmen. We want Singapore because of ASEAN and global markets. But I'm still a little bit struggled with figuring out why or what Singapore businessmen can be interested in our market, especially in trade. As you understand, there's a basic facts, the whole population, if you combine 5 countries altogether, we are only 74 million. We don't even do trades good enough among our Central Asian states. And we are also in a very landlocked region. Logistically, it's not desirable. It's already mentioned by our Yerlan, Mr. So could you please share more perspective? This is a question to us now. Could you please share more perspective from Singaporean businesses on the more on economic sense? Because I understand in your speech you mentioned about BRI and the Eurasian Economic Union. Sorry, my personal opinion is just more like maybe political element in this decision making. But what specifically can Singapore businesses interested in our market? I will appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay, I will just share from what I understand from the Singapore perspective, which is that generally, as it is in emerging markets, we are looking at a very small number of companies that are willing to be curious enough to venture outside of the immediate region. So talking about Central Asia, we are working with a very small and very niche group of companies. And these companies that express interest in Central Asia usually do so because they recognize very specific opportunities. And I say this, for example, in areas such as, for example, master planning, education, and pre-COVID in certain countries like Uzbekistan, there was some bright spots in the tourism and hospitality sector. But that said, even so, there was probably maybe less than, 5 companies that actually were starting to express interest in it. So I get I agree with your point that there are very few companies, Singapore companies, that may be interested in the Central Asia region, but there are still some, albeit very low. And for our work in MTI, we usually work very closely with this group because we believe that once we work with these companies and we try and we enjoy some very small but visible success, we are able to attract more companies. So I think it's a question of time. I think at this point, relations from an economic perspective are still a bit low, and also there's some setback in the form of COVID and other things. But I think when we look at it from a longer term, we believe there will be more opportunities in that sense. Now, from a G2G level, from me having looked at the economic profile of Central Asia. Central Asia has a very young, growing middle class population. The benefits may not be so apparent now, but I think in time to come, a lot of these economic or commercial opportunities will come from this reality, which is that you're going to have a larger growing middle populations who are able to demand greater and better quality of services and goods. And that therein lies further opportunities for companies to then go in, maybe not now, but in perhaps 5 to 10 years time, or maybe even 20 years time. As it is before COVID, we already started to see some demand in, say, the education sector. So having such a young and large population, there was a very high demand for, say, tertiary education. There was a lack of tertiary education providers in Central Asia for very young preschool education service providers. And that's where some of our companies who are in that sector started to realize that if they wanted to expand beyond the immediate region, they needed to look at frontier markets, and Central Asia was, for some of them, on their radar. Sorry, I'm going a bit all over the place. I apologize for that. The other thing is that I noticed in your question that you pointed out that Central Asia is a very landlocked region, and therefore it presents its own logistical challenges. I don't dispute that. That has presented some challenges, which is also why I brought up the point that connectivity needs to be there, be it in physical or in the digital sense. For countries that have that present this kind of barriers to trade, I would say, I think the more, for lack of a better word, appropriate approach to this is to then focus on things like trade services, your e-commerce, your retail solutioning providing, because I think that would overcome the issue of logistical challenges. And in today's day and age, how we promote trade or establish trade links, a lot of it is through the digital sphere already. We don't just look at the physical movement of goods. We also explore a lot of other areas, like some of the other panels have started mentioning, like fintech, and this kind of areas. And I think, to sum up, there are still opportunities. It's just that we're looking at very niche companies, very niche sectors, and I think it's a question of time. It just we need more companies to be aware of these sectors, and coupled with the other economic realities like a growing population with a higher demand for services and goods, we believe that would improve in time to come. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much, Athena. Thank you, Jenny, for your question.
Can I also add to this question? I would totally agree with Athena about what the possible interest could be for Singaporean companies in Central Asia, but I would like also to add several things to it and several points. First of all, as I already mentioned, the 2020 shows that the volume of investments have not diminished much, but it is more than 150 million in portfolio investments and other investments to Kazakhstan. It shows that dividends from those investments are much higher than the current situation in Singapore can pay back to potential investors. So our market, that means that our markets is in some areas are more even look preferable for foreign investors than the local markets where the dividends or interests from investment could be about maximum 4% or so, but in Kazakhstan the interest is much higher. We also, I would also say that the trade is we have not that big trade, but our trade is about $100 million. So it falls from the peak of more than $500 in 2018. But by that time in 2018, the most important product that was sold from Kazakhstan was oil and gas, actually. Now it is more various. We little by little are enhancing the export product line and hope that after COVID situation, this product line will be also including more and more products, food products and food and beverage products and services as well. For this, we are working together with Minister of Trade and Industry of Singapore to sign the service and investment agreements bilateral that hopefully will make it more easier for businessmen to from both sides to do the mutual projects. I would like to also to remind that Singapore, one of the big exports of Singapore is its experience, how the country has developed, and exporting its knowledge and experience to foreign countries. It is not a secret that since our independence, Kazakhstan copy and pasted many of Singaporean reforms in Kazakhstan, and we are trying to do it even now in many areas, and that also establish a very big niche where we can cooperate between our two countries. And but besides that, I believe that the technological area sphere is a very promising one, because last year the IPO of Kaspi Bank and the operation, the last news of Forbes most rich people showed that in Kazakhstan list of millionaires there are three people, two from Kaspi Bank, which made an IPO in Kazakhstan in technological sector, and the other one was Timur. What was his name? Sorry for getting it. Timur Tarakulov or something like that, who also made his fortune because of technological spheres in Kazakhstan. He is actually a Russian businessman who moved to Almaty, stayed in Almaty, developed his business in Almaty, and became a billionaire in Almaty. So I believe that these two examples show that we have a lot of spheres, not only between Kazakhstan and Singapore, but the platform of Astana International Financial Sector is targeting to provide the platform for cooperation not only in Kazakhstan, but to also include the areas of Central Asia and Eurasian Economic Union, and use the benefits of English of common law, so that the project could be implemented on the territory of all those neighboring countries. And I believe that the need of every country for the post-COVID development will provide a lot of interesting areas for cooperation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Yerlan. Thank you. As our time for webinar has come to end, so some of our speakers have to leave, but I would like to ask those who can to stay, because we have more interesting questions. We also have our chapter president to deliver a short note. So if you could stay for 10-15 more minutes, but if you have to go, please go ahead with your schedules. Thank you very much for those who will be leaving us now. And for those who will be staying, we will read out the questions now.
My apologies, I will have to jump out. Everyone, thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here today. I have other duties to attend to, and I hope this the remainder of the Q&A session goes well and productive. Have a good day.
Thank you, Ojas. Thank you.
Bye, Ojas.
Bye.
Okay, our next question is from Aaron Nair. He is LKYSPP MPP program alumna. And the question is about the Islamic finance. Aaron, if you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Thank you.
Thanks, Inkar, for moderating. Thought it was a splendid job and also a very illuminating session as well. Also, a Ramadan Mubarak to all who are celebrating. Hope you all have a very blessed month ahead as well. Just wanted to leverage on that question that I asked, and how is Central Asia leveraging on the potential Islamic finance? I think that's quite an obvious growth potential there. I mean, I come from Malaysia. I still hold a Malaysian passport. In Malaysia, we have kind of worked ourselves to a point of being a hub of sorts for Islamic finance. And I was wondering, with all this growth happening in the region in terms of capability, competency, and also just the size of the market growing as well, with a lot of disposable income and liquidity, is there room for growth in that regard? And the second question is, I think the elephant in the room is COVID as well, right? How has COVID affected, business, the potential for businesses in the region, growth strategies? Has that, thrown a curveball of some sort? Has that also opened new ways in doing business for the region? Has there been any movement towards, diversification, or, is there any, for example, interest in boosting capacity in cold chain storage, or even a vaccine production as well, which is quite a pertinent matter at this day and age. So yeah, just wanted to hear some comments from those in the know. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Aaron. I would like to ask Vikram to take this question. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. So I will try to respond to your question on behalf of my colleagues, but I'm not the professional on the Islamic finance. So here we are conducting the several type of activities on development of the Islamic finance, as this direction is one of the key pillars of the AFC, and we are focusing on that. And as I told before, that we are really focusing on development of the human capital. And we have the special courses within the BCPD, which is called IFQ, Islamic Finance Qualification from the CISI. So we have the press CSAA, and we have partners from the Bahrain, like ADIF, BIBF. So they're also conducting several types of work. So starting from the Islamic commercial law, like banking operations in Islamic finance, Islamic equity operations, like Islamic financial institutions, like Sharia review, internet Sharia audit, etc., etc. So I've been also pathing that type of courses. And I think that you're pretty aware about the INSEIF. I think that they're from Malaysia, and they are one of the first, our partners who are conducting that type of activity on development of of conducting some programs for the students. And then from the other hand, we have the hub for Islamic finance and the business, Islamic business. And also we at the FinTech Hub trying to work with the startups in Islamic finance field. And at the moment we have 3 companies, 3 startups who are working in the region of the Central Asia. So that's a few, but we still have the place to grow. Regarding the hub of the Islamic finance, so they are responsible for development of the regulation of the rules and regulations on the Islamic finance. So we have the Takaful, Retakaful, and some others, some other types of regulation in Islamic finance. And if you want to go more deeper, we can send you the material like Islamic Finance Master Plan for the Republic of Kazakhstan. So that's a strategic document which is prepared by our partners, by our consultants under the technical assistance of the Islamic Development Bank. So IDB is also supporting Kazakhstan on developing and focusing on that part of finance, because there is a huge market which is like wants to come to like Central Asia, like, to be honest.
Thanks, Bikram. I learned a lot from that. Thanks.
Thank you, Bikram, for that answer. Thank you, Aaron, for your question. Now we have a question from Clemens Che, the research fellow at the Middle East Institute. I'm going to read it out. So I would like Inkar to take this question. Thanks to the speakers for outlining the existing opportunities. Beyond bilateral relations between Kazakhstan and Singapore, could there be windows on the regional level, that is to say between ASEAN and Central Asia? Should there be a deepening of interregional ties in areas such as education?
Yeah, this is really an important and interesting question. Thank you, Clemens, for raising this. I think there is definitely a need, and there is, at least from Central Asia's part, there is such a platform that already exists under Nazarbayev University. Every year, Nazarbayev University hosts International Higher Education Forum, where they invite all the partner universities from around the world, plus researchers, scientists, educators from all over Central Asia, Mongolia, China, Russia, and so on. So this is one platform that already exists, where knowledge sharing, experience sharing is happening. And I think it's really the right way for the rest of Central Asian countries to approach and leverage on Nazarbayev University's experience and expertise without going really further away. When I think about LKY School was also established based on the Harvard Kennedy School's model. And then later on, LKY School helped to set up the Graduate School of Public Policy at Nazarbayev University. So I would say that it would be much easier for the rest of Central Asian countries to approach Nazarbayev University and learn from their experiences. And through this platform, other ASEAN countries could also join and maybe participate in the annual Higher Education International Forum at Nazarbayev University and start the discussions from there. Already using this platform that exists in the center of Central Asia. Other than that, if my colleagues, maybe Athena, is aware of any other existing platforms that already exists for information sharing between ASEAN and Central Asian countries, maybe you can share as well.
Right, thank you so much, Inkar. Thank you for those insights.
If, with your permission, I would like also to add some points to what Ms. Aika just mentioned. As I understand the question, there was a question about the regional level cooperation, especially in interreligious ties and in areas such like education. Concerning the interreligious ties, I would like to mention that there is a Congress of Leaders of World and Traditional Religions that was initiated by Kazakhstan and is held by Kazakhstan every 3 years. We are working very closely with ASEAN countries on the participation of its religious leaders in this forum, including Singapore. Participation from Singapore was in 2010 by Imam Abbas Alatas, which is pretty well-known imam here in Singapore. and we will work together with Singapore on participations in this Congress in the future and with ASEAN countries as well. As regarding to the cooperation in education, a lot of Kazakhstani students are studying not only in Singapore, but many are studying in Malaysia, especially, which provides a very good education as well. And there are our Kazakhstani students in Indonesia and other countries. But the most progressive cooperation is in tourist area, where people from our region are annually visiting Southeast Asia for a vacation and for learning tourism. Return back to education. We have a lot. Our students are participating in many vocational studies as well, especially during summer program and to learn English and foreign languages. Now return back to tourism. I would say that not only tourists from Central Asia are visiting Southeast Asia, but areas like, especially in Uzbekistan, as Mr. Tenov mentioned, but also in Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan are visited by many religious pilgrims from Indonesia, Malaysia, and other countries of the region, especially to visit such cities as Samarkand, Bukhara, and Turkestan. I believe that there are a lot of opportunities in education as well. Singapore and Malaysia is already participating in various companies who are having schools in Kazakhstan. For example, Nazarbayev schools were designated after the Singaporean model, and we have also a very developed, very progressive school system, like school company Tamos, which was also initiated by the Malaysian business. So there are a lot of opportunity to open such educational facilities both in Kazakhstan and other Central Asian countries, as well as vice versa. If there will be opportunity for our universities and research institutes to have the cooperation with local partners, we're ready to implement it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Counsellor. So we have our last question, after which Dinara, our chapter president, will deliver the closing note. So the question is from Dr. Asif Shuja, Middle East Institute at NUS, to our Honorable Counsellor, Mr. Yerlan. Please, Dr. Asif, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Whenever I attend these kind of conferences, this actually brings me to the bottom line of the entire, existence of or the development story of Singapore. Because, what Singapore has been or what it has achieved, it is primarily because it has ventured out to the territories where nobody has ventured. Getting into the terrain which is riskier, to the terrain which has untapped market, which doesn't have matured market. These are the sentiments which were reflected in one of the articles of our non-resident ambassador to Kazakhstan, Mr. Zulkifli Baharuddin, who really reflected all these sentiments very well, that there is a need to focus on the mindset of the people of Singapore, to find out the avenues are lying there in the Central Asia, Kazakhstan, and it is very much related to the management story, which all of us here, two management professionals were asked to sell shoes to an island where nobody wore shoes. One of them said that, how can I sell it? Nobody wears shoe. The other said, oh, there's a huge amount of, opportunities lying there. So I think what Singapore stands today, it is because of those activities of 40 years ago. So what we do today it will actually pay us back 50 years hence. So my question to our honorable councillor is, does he also share the same viewpoint, or does he also intend to work towards changing that mindset? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Asif, for such a wonderful question. I believe that there are a lot of opportunities, and there is no need to maybe, of course, we need to work focusly on like selling Central Asia and Kazakhstan on local market. Of course, it goes hand in hand with changing the mindset and stereotypes of how Singapore can work with Central Asia and Kazakhstan. But of course, we need to be very frank and to acknowledge that for this, Kazakhstan and Central Asia will always compete with neighboring Southeast Asian markets, with East Asian markets, with European markets, and with American markets. There will be no discount for us, and nobody will do any advantages for us just because we are Central Asian and we have a good political ties. We are very clearly understanding this situation, and I believe that Singaporean people are very pragmatic. They are doing business with those countries where they see benefits and the potential of growth. That's why I think that without also changing the mindset, not only among the Singaporean countries, but also among the Central Asian countries, we will not be that much successful. And that is the bottom line understanding of the government of Kazakhstan, that without further reforms, we cannot achieve much progress. As I mentioned in my beginning, that government of Kazakhstan puts very ambitious targets for Kazakhstan development. By 2050, we envision ourselves to become a member of the club of 30 most developed countries. That will not come if we will not continue our reforms, political, economical, social, and other reforms as well. This we are bringing to the our table with our neighboring countries as well, and we are when we are talking to our neighboring countries, we always are arguing for the need of the common market, that the custom barriers and any other barriers should be gone, and that we should see ourselves as a common market in the future. And I believe that Singapore is a very good experience, has a very good experience and knowledge how to do it, because Singapore is a very small country by itself. However, the trade volume of Singapore is 3 times bigger than the GDP of Singapore. That means that the amount of benefits that Singapore is making from trade with neighboring countries and with the other world is giving more benefits to every Singaporean than just the production and investment in itself, in its own economy. We are looking for Central Asian to become as much open market as possible to benefit from the open and free trade, and to have a more close relations with Southeast Asia and Singapore.
Right, thank you so much. I think it's very well put in those words, the entire objective and overarching idea of the webinar. So on that note, I would like to end the webinar and give the closing note to the LKYSPP Central Asia and Caucasus Alumni Chapter President, Ms. Dinara Datbayeva. She's a manager at Bureau for Continuing Professional Development. And with her note, we will finish this webinar. Thank you, Dinara.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you to see all the amazing speakers that we had. Special thanks to the Embassy of Kazakhstan in Singapore and the Counsellor, Mr. Yerlan Kubashev. Back in the days of our studies, the embassy was a piece of homeland where you always get treated a tasty Kazakh tea with milk. So it's a very heartwarming memory. So thank you for that. And big thanks to Inkar for taking the leadership role to organize and initiate this conference at the first place, the forum. As a closing note, I would like to restate what we as a chapter do, and both in the region and among alumni. So that takes me to sharing with you 3 different goals, main goals that we have as a chapter. So the first goal is to create value to our alumni. So we started the chapter, very few number of us, back in 2017, to share different opportunities, employment, jobs, conferences, and so on, among a small group of alumni. So since then, it has grew to a bigger alumni network with bigger ambitions. So the second goal that we have is to act as a bridge between LKYSPP school and alumni. And we in a very good contact with the school, and we provide different opportunities again from the school to our alumni. And the last one that is the most important, and that takes us to why this forum happened in the first place, is that we support the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy mission in the world by contributing to the development of leadership, strong governance, and transformation to a more sustainable world. That sounds very ambitious, but we have founded the chapter and transformed the shape of it through the years by particularly having that mindset and the mission in our head. And actually, I'm very happy to see that today's event is the first event where we as a region gather people not only that are our alumni, but also from NUS, Middle East Institute, people from partners, Nazarbayev University, and previous alumni as well as the embassy. So in fact, like I said, we want to contribute to the transformation. We want to participate in different events, in different projects, the ones that you have just described, existing, maybe the future ones, maybe we can create projects together. So this is actually why we have come here as a chapter, and looking forward to support these activities like this in the region. So without a further ado, thank you very much. Thank you, Inkar. Thank you, everyone. And I hope, thank you to support our chapter in the first place.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Just to close this session, I would like to end on 3 points as all LKYSPP alumni do. I think we learned a lot about the existing opportunities that should be used between these regions, the Central Asia and ASEAN, to diversify our economic relationships, trade, and education. Second, we also talked about the new ideas, expansion of the existing projects to other countries that should be developed. And third, I think we also learned about the challenges that the regions have to overcome to use those existing opportunities and develop the new ones. Thank you, everyone, for joining our session today. Thank you, Mr. Yerlan. Thank you, all the alumni and the representatives of the Middle East Institute. Thank you, Prof. Alex, for coming up with the idea of the forum. We would love to share the recording with the Middle East Institute. We would also write a small report on this event on the LKYSPP alumni website. So stay tuned for that with us for more events. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Have a good day.
Have a great day.
Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Mubarak.
Thank you. Ramadan Kareem.
До свидания.
Inkar, до свидания.
До свидания. Спасибо большое.